Alright guys, this is a 2015 KTM Superduke 1290, and I've been getting a little bit of clutch slippage, so I'm going to show you what I did, or what I'm doing, to try and slow that down so that I can prolong the life of my clutch as long as possible without replacing the plates. I'm not sure if I need to replace the plates. The reason is on a recent oil change, I added a little bit of like friction reducer to the oil, and this is a wet clutch, and I think that might have screwed me over. I shouldn't have done that. So I think that's why this is slipping a little bit, and it only slips under high load, high torque in like 4th or 5th gear or above. I can't notice it in the lower gears. This bike has about 23,000 miles on it. So anyway, for the procedure for this little thing that I'm going to do here, you got to drain the oil first. Again, this is a wet system, wet clutch, so if you didn't drain the oil and try to take this clutch cover off, it would just pour oil out all over. So I had to drain the oil out first, and then I'm going to remove this plate. I've already done all this. I've already loosened it. I've actually already done the whole thing, and I put it back together so I could show you, but I'm going to use my DeWalt because it's faster. Anyway, removing this plate is pretty easy. Pretty easy. Probably shouldn't have done so much on this first one before I just do a little bit on each one. See that? And then it'll click like that because, like I said, I already had the whole thing apart, and I just threw it back together hastily so that I could take it apart and record it. Anyway, you get to the point about right here, where the bolts just kind of are hanging on, barely, by a few threads. And it's easy to do. Remove the bolts. Sorry, my camera wasn't aimed well there. Remove the bolts, put them aside. These are the new springs. I decided to replace the springs because I thought that would put a little bit more pressure on the plates. Again, the old springs have 23,000 miles and 3 years on them, so I thought brand new springs might push just a little bit harder. And then there's these clips in here. Down right here. There's these silver clips in here. You can see these little clips. And they I don't know, let's see, I've got an example of one right here. Very, very thin. I'd say it's maybe 1/2 millimeter thin. So a couple things I did. I put an extra one of these shims, or this is what it's called. This is what it is here. I think this is the one, support clutch spring, because this was the springs. I got 3 new springs and 3 of these. I put another one of these in each of these holes. That's easy to do, and then new springs. And so what that's going to do all together is push harder on the clutch plates. And then I'm going to change the oil and not put friction reducer in it this time. Anyway, I'm going to see if that can extend the life of my clutch a little bit before I have to replace each one of those plates, which is kind of expensive. I think it's going to be around $400 if I have to do it, which is fine, but I just wanted to try and fix this first and see if it works. So let's see a couple other things. If you haven't seen the inside of the clutch on this bike, right now it's in first gear. So if I turn the wheel over here, you can see how what moves and what doesn't move, right? So this inner hub here is ultimately connected to the chain, to the wheel, and this outer hub here is ultimately connected to the crank. So when the two of them, when the two of these turn together, that is when the engine pushes the wheel, and when they don't, that's when it's not. This center piece here goes in and out. This is connected to the clutch slave cylinder on the other side, and be careful when you pull this off not to pull the clutch handle, because this will just keep coming out, and then it'll get locked out, and you'll have to go readjust the clutch. Alright, here's me pushing a new one of these clips in. You can see the old one is underneath the new one. Really easy to do. I'm just going to kind of push it in until it clicks. Locks in place. There you go. It's locked in place. So now there's 2 of those in each hole. And I get a new spring, and I'll put it back together and show you some of the steps of getting it all back together. And if you want to pop them out, it's easy to pop them out from the back side, by the way. Alright, here's something on reassembly. Sorry, I'm trying to get that camera to focus, which it might not do. There you go. So I put this back on, and it doesn't feel like it seats all the way. There's a gap right here. So the way that you do that is you'd grab the wheel in gear with one hand, and with the other hand kind of push and twist this until it clicks all the way in. That's why it snapped or clicked earlier in the video when I was taking it apart, because I you know, like I said, I hastily put it together and I didn't click it in all the way. But I can't do this with one hand, but you'll see it when it clicks in, and you'll feel it and you'll know that it happened. You just kind of wiggle the back wheel back and forth while at the same time wiggling and pushing on this, and it'll just click in. And then it's all the way seated. And then you just put the springs on, put the plate and the 3 bolts back on. I believe they torque to, I think it's 12 Newton meters, but I'm going to go double check that. And that's it. Put the clutch cover back on, and this job will be done. Good luck fixing your bike.